Hello children, today we are going to discuss electromagnetic induction. And before you can actually go into the details of electromagnetic induction, it is important for us to know what is magnetic flux. The concept of magnetic flux is not new to you because you have already done the concept of electric flux in Gauss theorem, right? Magnetic flux is, in fact, suppose this is a given surface, right? And then the magnetic field is driven like this. Then the total number of magnetic field lines which are passing through the surface at right angle to the surface is called magnetic flux. You have already done electric flux. If you replace electric field by magnetic field, it becomes magnetic flux, right? Now, so the lines must be perpendicular to the surface, means the lines must be along the area vector. You know, area vector is a vector which is perpendicular to the area, and there are two types of area vectors. One is along positive normal, the positive area. The other is along the negative normal, which is going inside. If the area is coming outside, it is positive area vector, and which is going inside is what? Negative area vector, right? So we will understand what is magnetic flux, right? So we are going to start electromagnetic induction, and in short we call it EMI, right? So we will understand the concept of magnetic flux. Magnetic flux, we denote it simply by phi or also phi m. We can use any of these two symbols. Okay. So let's understand first. Is called magnetic flux. Total number of magnetic field lines passing through a surface at right angle is called magnetic flux. So let's understand how will you calculate magnetic flux. Case 1, if magnetic field is B is perpendicular to the given area, like in this case. Now if the magnetic field is perpendicular to the given surface area, that means it is along the area vector. This area vector what? N cap. So how much is the angle between them? Angle is 0. So in this case, phi will be equal to B into A. But this will happen when B is perpendicular to the given surface. Case 1, when B is, first case is when B is perpendicular to the given surface area, children. And as you can see, when B is perpendicular to the given surface area means B is parallel to the area vector. You can write, you can also write area vector as A cap, or you can write full like this. Area vector is perpendicular to given surface area. So if B is perpendicular to the area, see the area is like this and this is the magnetic field. So B is perpendicular to the area, but the area vector is also perpendicular to the given surface. So both are what? Parallel. So you have to understand this. B is perpendicular to area means here, children, B is parallel to area vector. In this case, phi is equal to B into A. This is case 1. Now case 2. Case 2 we have when B is parallel to area. Now this is a very interesting situation. Suppose the area is like this, and this is magnetic field. So both are parallel. If both are parallel, then the area vector will go like this now. Area vector will go like this. So what will be the angle between these two? 90 degree. In this case, you can clearly see if I put my palm like this and I light a torch, then torch B will pass like this, will not pass to the given area. So in this case, area vector B is perpendicular to the magnetic field, right? And in this case, flux phi will be equal to how much here? 0. Now these two results, so we understood when B is perpendicular to the given area, it means B vector is parallel to area vector. In this case, phi is equal to B into A. When B is parallel to area, not area vector, B is parallel to area. So you can clearly see B is parallel to area. It means angle between the area vector and B is how much? 90 degree, and in this case clearly you can see both are parallel. no electric lines of force will be intersected by the given surface. Now we can generalize these two cases into a single case. That is case 3, the most generalized case when theta. Now children, this is a more generalized case when angle between the magnetic field and the area vector is how much here? Theta. Now here I said area, case 1, here also I said area, but I am being very specific. I am saying when angle between B and A is theta. And what is A, children? A is area vector which is perpendicular to the given area. Let us imagine like this. This is the given surface, right? This is the area vector and this is the magnetic field. Angle between them is theta. But children, actually what I want the total flux to this given surface area, and for that I need component of magnetic field perpendicular to the given surface. Means I need component of B along the area vector. So in this case, how much will be phi, children? Phi will be B cos theta into A. Alright? So phi can be written as BA cos theta, and then phi can also be written as B dot A. So both the results here that we have done in case 1 and case 2, the values can be obtained from here. Like in case 1, theta is equal to 0, cos 0 is 1, so phi is equal to B into A, and then phi is equal to, again we have B dot A. In case 2, theta is equal to 90 degree, cos 90 is 0, so phi will be equal to 0. So our case 1 and 2 is justified by case 3, right? Okay, now let us see. Here, on what factors does the magnetic flux depend? Now that is very important. On what factors does the magnetic flux depend? We said phi is equal to BA cos theta. If I want to change magnetic flux, I can do it in 3 ways. There are 3 factors. I can change the magnetic field, or I can change the what? Area, or I can change the what? Angle theta. All these 3 can be changed, and accordingly we can have a variation in the value of magnetic flux. So remember, if I want to change magnetic flux, I can change what? B, or I can change A, and I can change what? Theta. And if I using surface integral of magnetic field, then phi will be equal to B dot ds, or for the given surface, or can write B ds cos theta. Either we can calculate the magnetic flux associated with the given surface. This formula I have done in Gauss theorem is basically an extension of Gauss theorem, right? So once you understood these concepts of magnetic flux, we will try to understand what is electromagnetic induction. Children, the first experiment for electromagnetic induction was carried out by Michael Faraday, and this experiment is a natural outcome of what we know already about the behavior of matter around us. Okay, let's see. Faraday's experiment. Now children, we are going to discuss Faraday's experiment. Like I said in the beginning, that when a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, then it experiences a magnetic force. Now the scientists were worried whether, they were concerned actually whether this effect can be reversed. Meaning, if a magnet is moved, then will a coil placed nearby develop a current, which is an opposite of the force acting on a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field, right? And for this, Michael Faraday carried out a very simple experiment and very interesting one, which laid down the foundation of generating electricity on a commercial scale, right? Let us understand. Here we have a coil, children. There is a coil. This coil is connected to a sensitive what? Galvanometer. And then what happens is, here we have a magnet. For example, the north pole is facing toward the coil. Now what he did was, imagine this is a coil and this is a magnet. Keeping the coil stationary, he tried to move the magnet towards the coil. When he started moving the magnet towards the coil, then at a certain instant he found that a deflection was seen in the galvanometer. Right? See the observation. When he began moving the magnet towards the coil, he found that there was a deflection in the galvanometer. Right? If there is a deflection in the galvanometer, it obviously indicates there is a current flowing in the circuit, and you can see that in the coil here we have not connected any source of current. There is no battery connected whatsoever. So the question is, if I am moving the magnet toward the coil, then why I am noticing a current in the circuit and what factor is responsible for it? Let us understand it. When the magnet is away from it, you know the magnetic field lines will come out of the north pole. So imagine this is how these lines are coming out. Some of the lines are going what? Away. Now this line is being intersected by the coil. This is also going away. This is being what? Intersected. Something like this is going to happen. You can see that number of lines passing the coil is what? Changing as I am coming towards the coil. Let us see another situation. Suppose we have the same coil here. Same coil. Now this coil is again connected to a galvanometer and the same magnet comes closer. If the same magnet comes closer, then what will you see? This is north pole and this is south pole. Obviously, there will be lines here entering the south pole as well, which you have not shown, but they are very much there, right? Now when the same magnet is coming closer, remember the magnet is coming closer, then you can see that larger number of magnetic field lines will be intersected by the coil. You can clearly see here that all these lines will pass through the coil. And here the same lines will be going away, going into the south pole and going away from the north pole. So what do you see? When the north pole comes towards the coil, the number of lines passing through the coil is what? Changing. And a current is being produced in the circuit. In both the cases, we will see a deflection in the galvanometer. We find many things interesting in this experiment. One is that by moving the magnet, I am able to produce a current. So a current is set up here in the circuit. Now Michael Faraday wanted to know whether current will be produced if he tried to move the magnet away from the coil. So what he did was, he took the same coil out here. This is the coil that he took, connected through a galvanometer, and then he began moving the magnet away. The magnet is moving away now. Velocity is away from the coil. In this case also surprisingly he found a deflection here in the galvanometer, but he found the deflection was actually in the what direction? Opposite direction. Here the current is anti-clockwise and he found here the current was what? Clockwise. But in both cases there was current, right? So whether the magnet is moving towards or the magnet is moving away, in both the cases there was deflection in the galvanometer, and this deflection shows that whenever we are moving the magnet towards or away from the coil, we are going to have a current, and without current we can without EMF we cannot have current. First, what should be set up? EMF, and then only current can be produced. That means this phenomenon of moving the magnet towards or away is actually producing what? An EMF, which is generating a current. Now what he did was, so here the magnet is moving in both the cases. Now we keep the magnet stationary. Magnet is not moving, velocity of the magnet is what? 0. And then he began moving the coil here. This is galvanometer. Suppose the coil is coming towards the north pole out here. Remember, the magnetic field lines are coming out of the north pole. Coming out of the north pole and going into the south pole, right? In this case also, he found that there was a deflection in the galvanometer and the direction was same. Like there we have current anti-clockwise, here also we have current what? Anti-clockwise. Here the coil was coming toward the magnet. Now he repeated the experiment. He took the magnet here and the coil is here. Here you have galvanometer again and he tried to move the coil away. In this case he found here current was anti-clockwise, here the current again became clockwise. Similar result that we have seen here. So he found that whether you move the coil or whether you move the magnet, in both cases EMF is being induced and therefore current is also being induced. Now what is very interesting is that if I have a situation like this, that the coil is here, right? Here you have a galvanometer and children, here we have a magnet. Velocity of coil is 0 and velocity of magnet is also 0. Both are stationary. In this case, he found there was no deflection in the galvanometer, meaning no current was being produced, right? So this led him to conclude. In fact, if you look at the scenario in which the magnet is moving here or the coil is moving here, in both cases we are able to generate what? EMF. But if I ask what we are changing, then actually we are changing the number of lines passing through the given coil in both cases. Whether you bring the magnet towards, you take it away, or keep the magnet stationary here, move the coil towards, move the coil what? Away. In all these 4 cases, you are having change in what? The magnetic field lines. And change magnetic field lines means what? We are changing magnetic flux. However, in this case, here, when the magnet is stationary and the coil is also stationary, whatever lines are passing through the coil, number of lines passing through the coil remains what? Same. And when the number of lines are remaining what? Same, then there is no EMF and therefore there is no current. So based on this, Michael Faraday, based on this experiment, concluded that whenever there is a change associated with the coil or any closed loop, then an EMF is what? Produced. And if EMF is produced, current will also be produced, and this phenomenon is called electromagnetic induction. Okay. So let's define what is electromagnetic induction. Okay. So Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. Now these laws are very important for you. There are 2 laws. First law says when so children, we are discussing now Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. The first law says when flux associated with a coil or a closed loop changes, an induced EMF is produced. Loop is not having its own EMF, an induced EMF. We are inducing what? EMF in it. So you have a magnet, you have a coil, you move the magnet, you move the coil, or you move both. In all 3 cases, you are changing the flux. However, you take the strongest magnet in the world and the best and the mightiest coil, the biggest coil in the world, and if you separate them by a certain distance and don't move them, then what will happen? There will be no change in flux and there will be no EMF. And if there is no EMF, there will be no current. Clear? This is the first law. Now the second law says that if you move the magnet faster or you move the coil faster or you move both faster, in all these cases actually you are having greater rate of change of flux. So he said that if you are changing flux faster or if the rate of change of flux is faster, then the induced EMF will also be what? Large. Faster we move, larger is the EMF, therefore larger is the induced current. Okay. So we will be writing the second law, number 2. Change of flux. Meaning he said that induced EMF, magnitude of induced EMF is equal to the rate of change of flux. I am using this word magnitude. That means there has to be an issue with the direction of the induced current also, right? So, induced EMF children, magnitude is equal to how much here? d phi dt. Magnitude of this induced EMF is what? d phi dt, or E is equal to minus d phi dt, or induced EMF is equal to negative over rate of change of flux. Now, we will understand the significance of negative and how it came about. But before that, one thing is certain, that if I move the magnet faster or if I move the coil faster, I move both of them faster, I will be able to generate what? More EMF, right? Now, this negative thing has to do with the direction of the induced EMF, and for this we need to understand Lenge's law. Okay? Let us understand what is Lenge's law. Now, children, for understanding the negative sign, actually we need to understand what is Lenge's law. Lenge's law is like this. Suppose I am standing here and you come towards me, I say don't come towards me, go away. Why so? Because of inertia, I do not want my position to be disturbed. And when you go away from me, I say don't go away from me, remain where you are. Means I neither want you to come towards me nor I want you to go away from me. Lenge explains it very well. Actually, children, this is the coil, suppose, and I am moving the magnet towards the coil. When the magnet is far away, then I see there is no current in the coil. However, when the magnet comes close enough, and the moment the lines are intersected here, intersected by the what? By the coil, then onwards I will see there is a current in the circuit being set up. Now, the interesting part is that if I want to move the magnet, the moment this current is produced here and I want to move the magnet closer, then I will find that this magnet is now experiencing repulsion, and I will have to push it, I have to do work in bringing closer against repulsion. Not only that, if I want to take it away, then also I will find that I am doing work. When I am coming towards, I will find that the magnet is being what? Repelled. When I am going away, it is being attracted. So, it was discovered by even what? Michael Faraday also, but not explained for many years until Lenge explained it. He said, remember children, that current is being produced in a circuit because of change in the flux. But once this current is produced, then its nature is to oppose the change of flux. So, Lenge said the nature of the induced EMF is such that it opposes any change of flux. So, imagine the coil is here, I am bringing the magnet towards. Suppose I am bringing the north pole. So, the moment current will produce here in the coil, now this coil will set up the direction of current in such a way that it can minimize the flux. So, it can minimize the flux only when it will try to stop the north pole from coming closer. That means this end will act like what pole? North pole. And if this has to act like north pole, what will be direction of current here? Anti-clockwise. And if I take it away, then again the flux is decreasing. Now, the nature of induced EMF is such that it will oppose the change of flux. Means it neither wants you to come towards, nor it is wanting you to go away from it. So, when the north pole will go away, you will try to attract it. I will say don't go away, don't go away. So, try to pull it towards itself. So, if you want to pull the north pole towards itself, then the coil has to produce a current which will produce what? A south pole this side. So, current here will be now clockwise. Clear? So, this is the significance of the negative sign, right? So, we will understand the statement for Lenge's law. Alright children, we understand Lenge's law here. Direction of induced current is such that it opposes change of flux. Very interesting. Remember, we understand that electromagnetic induction has been produced by what? Change in flux. But the moment this current is produced or the EMF is produced, the tendency of the induced current is such that it will oppose the change of flux. Remember, if there is no change in flux, there will be no EMF and therefore there will be no current. However, when you see there is a change in flux and there is a current, then onwards the current will set it up itself in such a manner, the current set up its direction in such a manner that it will oppose the change in flux. Means If south pole is coming towards, it will repel it, push it away. And if the south pole is going away from it, it will attract it. Therefore, since the nature of induced current and EMF is to oppose any change in flux, we are putting what? Minus d phi dt. Meaning, induced EMF will always try to minimize or to eliminate the change in flux. Clear? However, if we forego the negative sign, then magnitude will be minus d phi dt. This negative sign in fact relates to Lentz's law. The nature of the induced EMF is to oppose any change in flux. So, let us understand this once again, the direction that I marked in the beginning in Faraday's experiment. Okay. So, here two situations are shown. Here north pole is coming towards, you can see the magnet is coming towards the coil. Here the magnet is going away from the coil. In both cases, children, the number of lines, magnetic field lines passing the coil will change, right? Here it will increase and here it will decrease. More lines will try to go away from it and there will be less intersection. Here I can show more lines. I have to consider 5 units of lines here, you can see. As it is going away, the flux is decreasing, coming towards flux is increasing. So, now try to understand what Lentz's law says. When the flux will increase, then the coil will try to decrease it. Meaning, if the north pole is going towards, then the EMF which will be induced in the coil will produce a current which will try to what? Decrease the flux, and the only way the coil can decrease the flux is by repelling the north pole. So, this will produce what? Anti-clockwise current, because anti-clockwise current produces what? A north pole. Here the north pole is going away, the flux is decreasing. Then also the nature of induced EMF is what? To oppose change in flux. Here also it is opposing change in flux, here also decreasing, trying to oppose change in flux. Here flux was increasing, so try to cancel the flux. Try to cancel the flux by producing its north pole and pushing away the north pole. However, when the north pole is going away, it will try to what? Pull the north pole towards itself, so the flux remains what? Constant. Therefore, it has to attract the north pole, and for attracting the north pole, it will produce what current? A clockwise current. So, you can very well understand it, but you can remember a general rule. When the north pole will be going towards, the current here will be clockwise. When the north pole is going away, the current here current will be anti-clockwise, here current will be what? Clockwise, right? Meaning, the coil has to behave as north pole if the north pole is going towards, and when the north pole is going away, it has to act like a south pole, so that it can pull the magnet toward itself and prevent the change in flux, right? So, suppose the magnet is stationary, not moving, and I move the coil towards, direction will be same. If I move the coil away, direction will be, current will be opposite. So, you should be able to predict the direction of current whenever it is given to you. Okay, let us see this. Here we have got two questions. Find direction of the induced current in these two cases. Here we have a coil and there are 3 points. One is 1 here, 2 and 3. I want to find out what will be direction of current in the coil, and you can see this is a coil and the magnet is falling through it. Clear? You can see the south pole is moving towards the coil. When the south pole is moving towards the coil, children, then this will what will happen? That flux through this coil will what actually what? Change. In fact, change in the flux is being caused by the what? South pole moving towards the coil. What will be the nature of the induced EMF? The nature of the induced EMF through the coil will be such that it will be opposing the change of flux. So, obviously, this can be done when the coil can produce a current which will have a magnetic polarity to repel the what? South pole. So here current will become what? Clockwise. What will be direction current here? Clockwise. This end has to act like what pole? South pole, then only can what? Repel. Remember, whatever pole is approaching a coil, the coil has tendency to repel it. So what will be direction of the current here? Clockwise. Will be 1, 2, 3 to 2, 2, 1. So what will be direction of current here? 1, 3, 2, 1. Right? I can give you like this also. A, B, C. So you can say direction is A, C, B, A. A, C, B, A. Now this is a very typical case. There are 3 positions of a loop given. Position 1, position 2, and this position 3. Right? What will be direction of current in these 3 loops? See, loop 1 is going into the what? The magnetic field. When the loop 1 is going into the magnetic field, what will happen? Flux which is what? Increasing. Now, try to understand very clearly. The field is going inside. So, I can imagine an analogy here. The north pole is lying above the board and south pole is lying behind the board. So, if the loop is going inside, it is what? It is encountering what? North pole, and flux is increasing. So, what will be the tendency of the induced current? To reduce the what? Change in flux. Flux increasing, so we will try to decrease the flux, and therefore we will try to come out of the field, and that can be done only where there is repulsion. So, if there is a north pole here and the south pole, imagine the coil is coming towards what? North pole, encountering what? North poles. So, direction of current therefore will be what? Anticlockwise. Direction of current will be what? Anticlockwise. So, case 1, current is anti-clockwise. Very simply you can explain it. When you look at case 2, here the coil is what? Fully inside. The coil is fully inside. So, when the coil is fully inside, flux associated with the coil is not changing, because for changing what? For changing flux, you have to change either area or magnetic field or the angle. None of these 3 is changing. So, in case 3, flux is what? Constant. And if flux is constant, then how will be current? Current I will be 0. There will be absolutely no current in case 2, because the flux becomes uniform. Now, when you look at case 3, it is very interesting. The flux is decreasing. Flux is decreasing, again we come back to the same example. This is north pole and this is south pole, because the field is going inside. You know, the cross means field is going what? Inside. You have done no? Dot and cross notation. Cross means field is inside, negative normal, and dot means field is outside. So, in this case, the coil is what? Going out, going away from the what? North pole. So, direction of the induced current will be such that it will try to oppose the change in flux, meaning flux is decreasing. It does not want flux to decrease, it wants the flux to be what? Stationary. So, how can it be done? It can be done only when the current develops a magnetic field which will try to bring the coil back into the what? Magnetic field. So, it is going away from north pole. Therefore, the magnetic polarity should be what? South pole, hence current will be clockwise. Current will be clockwise. First case is anti-clockwise, third case it is clockwise. So, I hope you understood this concept. Okay, let us see the next one, another problem. There is another problem we will be seeing. Suppose here we have a coil and a magnet is being dropped through the coil. This is north pole and this is south pole. Imagine they ask a question that there is a coil and a magnet is being dropped through the coil, free fall. The magnet is having what? Free fall, and they ask you what will be acceleration of the magnet? Will it be equal to g, or will it be less than g, or will it be more than g, or will it be none? Let us answer this question. Can you imagine? There is a coil here, I am dropping the magnet here. I am allowing the magnet to fall freely. Generally, when an object will fall freely, its acceleration will be equal to what? Acceleration due to gravity. That is the definition of free fall. But they are saying if acceleration of the falling magnet is a, then which of these conditions are correct? A is equal to G, is less than G, is more than G, or none of these? What will you give the answer? See, generally if this coil was not there, then A should be equal to G. But what you find, as if this magnet will fall towards the coil will induce what? A current which will try to oppose the change in flux. The north pole is falling towards, the flux is increasing, it will try to push it what? Away. So what will be the direction of current? Anticlockwise. And when current will become anticlockwise, it will try to push the north pole away. Means net force on the magnet will be less than mg. So therefore acceleration will be less than g. Okay. So this is a technical question which you have to answer. Suppose your plates have a capacitor here, right? Plates have a capacitor, and then they ask you, a north pole is coming towards, there are two plates, one is P, the other is Q. What will be their polarity? So if north pole is coming towards, then current will become what? Anticlockwise, and current in the external circuit flows from positive to negative. So P will become positive and Q will be negative. This is a very popular question they ask you. So this is important for you to know. So we understood how we can determine direction of induced current due to electromagnetic induction, and this can be done, children, by using a simple concept, but then the nature of the induced EMF is such that it opposes change in flux, right? Now we have a law which is called Fleming's right hand rule for determining the direction of induced current. We can use this also. Let's understand this. The law says that if you stretch the right hand thumb, the forefinger and middle finger at right angle to each other. You can see this, right? This is like x axis, y axis and z axis. And if direction of motion is given by the thumb, magnetic field is given by the what? Forefinger. Then direction of induced current is given by the what? Middle finger. Clear? So we will be using this concept. Let's understand Fleming's right hand rule for direction of induced current. Okay, let's see this. Direction of induced current. Children, if you stretch the right hand thumb, forefinger and middle finger at right angle to each other, okay, if middle finger is induced current. So children, we have written here direction of induced current, which is basically Fleming's right hand rule. If right hand thumb, forefinger and middle finger are stretched at right angle to each other, remember all three will have to be perpendicular. If any two of them are not perpendicular, then there is no induced current. Okay, so must be at right angle to each other, right? Such that thumb gives the velocity, very important. Forefinger gives magnitude of magnetic field, direction of magnetic field, sorry. Then middle finger gives what? Induced current I. Let's understand this, let's utilize it here. Remember, we will be using this law for increasing flux. For which flux? Increasing flux. This is the coil and the magnet is falling through. So you can see this is plane of the coil and the velocity of the magnet, both are perpendicular to each other. If you use right hand rule, children, let's use right hand rule. This is the velocity. Velocity is down. Magnetic field is always from north pole to south pole. So field is pointing where? Upwards. This is magnetic field B. So if I use right hand rule, the velocity is down, right here, and the magnetic field is what? Up. So you can see current is coming like this. So current will become what? Anticlockwise now. Current here is anticlockwise. The flux is increasing. Remember, we will be using this law for increasing flux. For decreasing flux, we will reverse the direction of the current. We are using for increasing flux. In this case, the loop is going inside, the flux is increasing. With the field which is going inside, right? With the field, the velocity is like this. You can see current is coming like this now. It is what? It's upwards. You can see current is what? Upwards. So obviously the current is anticlockwise. Here it will be clockwise because the flux is decreasing. Right? In this case, let's see. The magnetic field is from north pole to south pole. This is how the magnetic field is, right? And the magnet is moving towards, right? So if I use this is the velocity and the field is coming like this, right? So this is the velocity, this is how the field is coming up. So the current is coming like this now, right? Anti-clockwise. So this becomes positive and this becomes negative. Clear? And inside the battery it is like this, from negative to positive. Inside the capacitor it is like from Q to P, but outside from P to Q. So obviously P will develop what polarity? Positive, and Q will develop what polarity? Negative polarity. Clear? So this should be kept in mind by you. So we saw the application of the right hand rule. Clear? Now we'll be seeing some more interesting formulas using Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. Okay? Let's see. If flux through one turn is phi. Suppose children, flux through one turn is phi. So we understand now from all this discussion that whenever there will be change of flux associated with the coil, it will produce what? EMF. So we are saying let flux through one turn is phi and number of turns is equal to n. How many turns are there? N turns. So children, each turn will have induced EMF and all these EMF will add up together to generate total EMF which is associated with the given coil. Okay? So we will say like this, EMF in the coil E will be equal to minus n into d phi dt. Meaning total EMF in the coil will be here EMF through one turn into the total number of turns. Clear? You can also write E equals to minus n into delta phi by delta t. Now delta phi is what? Turn in, change in total flux, and delta t the total time. If you do not want to use calculus, you can use directly delta phi by delta t. But children, we know delta phi is equal to how much? Phi 2 minus phi 1. Clear? So if I use E is equal to minus n into phi 2 minus phi 1 divided by T2 minus T1. So children, these are three formulas that we will be using for the numericals relating to how much EMF is induced due to electromagnetic induction. Clear? Now I will be seeing an important result, but in all these three formulas, remember, negative sign shows the nature of the induced EMF is to oppose any change of flux, right? Now when there is a current, then there also has got to be what? An EMF. So EMF we have already got. Now let us calculate what? How much the induced current. So we will say if resistance of the coil, if resistance of the coil is equal to R, then how much will be I, children? I will be magnitude of EMF divided by R, and magnitude of EMF is how much? N d phi dt, and this will be divided by R. Clear? Or you can write I is equal to N by R delta phi by delta t. So these are the equations that you can use for current which is induced in the circuit as a consequence of electromagnetic induction. And children, when current is induced in a circuit, then obviously certain amount of charges will also pass through the given circuit. So we say charge delta q is equal to I into delta t. Clear? And I we already got here. I can use this expression, I can use this also. Then delta phi will be, children, delta q will be equal to I that is N by R delta phi by delta t into delta t. Clearly this delta t and delta t will what? Cancel out. So how much charge will pass? Delta q is equal to N by R into delta phi. So this will be an important set of formulas that we calculated. We saw a formula for calculating EMF. Then we saw a formula for calculating how much is I and then how much charge is set to flow in a circuit as a consequence of electromagnetic induction, right? Let's see a small numerical on this, okay?